Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my epic rant on the 2022 horror film X. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this film and going in depth as to why I wasn't that fond of it, I want to give a special shout out to Brock for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below, and I will try to get to it as soon as I possibly can. Now, X is one of those films that I was honestly really looking forward to. I really thought the trailers looked like they presented a film that had a ton of potential. It looked like it could be a fun, fast-paced throwback slasher. Instead, I got a slow-paced slasher where the first kill doesn't even happen until 57 minutes into the fucking film. And by that point, the movie's almost already over. A slasher that takes itself too seriously. And a slasher that just is fairly generic at the end of the day. And it's one of those movies where I think it also wasn't as wild or as crazy as its advertising suggests. You know that line where it's like, well, this is one wild, fucked up movie. It's not really that wild. And it's not really as fucked up as you might think it could be. The only kind of things that come to mind when it comes to fucked up is how badly Ty West fucks this entire concept up and takes what could be a fun, inventive slasher film and turns it into a slog. So the film is directed by Ty West, and I think for the most part he did a good job here. I'm not going to say that his direction is bad. In fact, the direction is great. It's really the writing where Ty West stumbled for me. But when it comes to the direction, this film is very dynamic. The visuals are very sleek, very stylish. I really think he did a great job capturing this grindhouse 70s feel that he was trying to go for. I also feel that the movie has a lot of really effective mood and atmosphere that's very eerie and creepy and definitely evokes a lot of horror. And I also feel that he worked well with a relatively low budget. He worked well with his settings, making them feel like they are their own character, whether it's the farmhouse or the lake or whatever. It's a film that definitely did feature a lot of good camera work when it comes to bringing the setting to life. I feel that he worked well with his cast, brought out a fair amount of good performances from them. I feel that he shot the kills in a way that was very energetic when they were there. When the kills were on the screen, they were well shot. They had a good amount of energy to them, good amount of vitality, and a good amount of style too, especially the way that he shot them with certain kinds of lighting, with red light or a bluish sort of gray light. Overall, the direction is probably one of the biggest standouts when it comes to X. And in particular, there's one shot that I really thought was quite jaw-dropping, which is a shot of Mia Goth. She's swimming in this lake, and I don't know if he shot it with a drone or what, but however Ty West shot this scene, he did a remarkable job with it. Because this is just a really impressive sequence that just was quite awe-inspiring to look at, because it's just a really great wide shot of Mia Goth swimming in this lake, and then there's a crocodile or an alligator that shows up behind her, and she's swimming and she's completely oblivious to this alligator. And the way that it was shot, it was really suspenseful. It provided some genuine tension. I wish the film had a lot more of that throughout it, because that was a really good scene. But the film, in a lot of ways, is similar to a lot of other A24 horror films that I've seen, where they are really well shot. They feature some great direction. They feature some good looking scenes. They have good atmosphere and mood, but they are lacking in a lot of other key areas. And consistently, one of the areas that they lack in the most is with the writing, with the story and the characters. And I feel that, once again, A24 does not deliver the goods for me and disappoints when it comes to those two fronts. X is no exception to that, sadly. And I really wish that I could be sitting here and saying otherwise, but that's not the case. I'd be lying to you if I said that I didn't find the writing or the characters to be particularly problematic for me. Or not necessarily problematic, but ineffective, or nowhere near as good as they could be. Now, Ty West also wrote the film, which is another issue that I see with a lot of these A24 horror films, where you have these filmmakers who think they can be dual threat guys or gals, and to me, they are in dire need of another voice when it comes to the screenplay, when it comes to the characters, and when it comes to the story. I don't understand why they think they can do it all themselves. Maybe it's because Ty West has just done this for most of his other movies, but I mean, at some point, you have to realize your own limitations, and you have to realize that another voice, another writer in the room could actually be very beneficial to your product. And I feel with X, it isn't really that far off from being a good film to me. It really comes down to how things are paced, how things are structured. I'm fine with the slow burn kind of horror film. One of my favorite horror films is The Changeling with George C. Scott, and that's a slow burn. And it's something that I think it can be really effective and really strong if it's done well. But I don't think X is a effective slow burn kind of film. Also, the slasher genre is not really something that works with the slow burn formula. I mean, a slash is a relatively quick motion, and it's very difficult to make a slow burn slasher into something that is satisfying and exciting and consistently entertaining to watch. And I don't feel X has strong enough characters or a strong enough story overall to start things off to make that work. I know this film was inspired by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre by Tobe Hooper, and you can definitely see a lot of that inspiration here, but that was a film that handled the mystery better. That was a film that handled the structure of the story in a much more satisfying way, because things happened faster. It didn't take as long to get things going. When you wait almost an hour until the first kill in a slasher movie, that's a deadly mistake to me. That's a fatal error. And it was something that could have been easily avoided. Just have one or two kills sprinkled in between the first 57 minutes. You can still have your bloodbath and your climax of blood and guts at the end of the movie. You can still do that. I don't understand the thought process from Ty West here. The characters weren't strong enough, and neither was the story. So why not have some kills in between? I mean, you had one moment of suspense when Mia Goth is swimming in the lake, but that's very fleeting. Other than that, there's a whole lot of fucking nothing. Most of it's just focusing on the making of this porno, and it's not really that funny, and it's not really that entertaining. So You're waiting for it to become a slasher film. You're waiting for the horror elements to come in and for it to stop trying to be some kind of porno drama mixed with a little bit of comedy. But nothing that you're really going to point out and say is particularly memorable or hilarious in really any capacity. So I don't understand why Ty West made this decision. It's an easy fix. Just have a couple kills in between the first 57 minutes. Don't have a scene of one of the characters singing a fucking song, for instance. Cut that out and put a kill there. Have a kill at some point after the first 30 minutes. It's not like all these characters are really that strong to begin with. This is like a slasher that had characters that were charismatic enough or had enough about them that made you somewhat engaged, but it didn't start killing them off until almost an hour into the movie. At some point, those characters' flaws are going to become way more noticeable. And that's what happened with X for me. And I don't understand why Ty West tried to make the killer into some sort of sympathetic figure at one point as well. Especially after she's already being a creeper and she's inappropriately touching this other woman. It's like, why should I sympathize with her? Yeah, she's old. Yeah, her husband, I guess, doesn't find her as attractive anymore. She doesn't find herself as attractive anymore because she's an older woman. Okay, that doesn't excuse her being a creeper. And I don't understand the thought process there either. Let's make the audience sympathize with this creepy old woman who's touching people inappropriately. No, that doesn't work. And then, after all that, you know what the killer amounts to, folks? Spoilers. A horny old woman. That's what the killer is in X. It's a horny old woman. Yes. It sounds like something out of a sketch on a sketch comedy. Like a Mad TV or SNL or something along those lines. And it could be funny if the script was more clever with it, but it's not. It's something that feels like it should be a parody, but it's not really a parody, so it just comes across as something that is just awkward and weird more than anything else. And I just don't get it. I mean, horny old woman, she's killing these people because she can't get her rocks off anymore. The only way that she can get her rocks off is if she starts killing people. Is that the whole point? If that's the point, there's not a whole lot there. I mean, buy a fucking dildo. Get a fucking vibrator or some shit. I know she's in the middle of nowhere. I don't know. There is something called your finger. You know? Take two fingers to finger yourself. If the parts still work. I know they still work because there are scenes in the film that show that they still work because the old couple gets it on later in the movie. So her parts still work. So to me, there's really no excuse for her not to do it. Not to flick the beans, so to speak. I mean, is that really all that this is? I can't get it up anymore. So, the only way I can get myself to a climax is if I start killing people. And also, it's another one of those scripts where there's not enough there for a feature-length film. This would work really well as a segment in a horror anthology. It would. You'd introduce the characters, you'd have the people who are trying to make the porno, you'd let the audience know who they are and why they are there at this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and then you introduce the old couple, you show the idea that she can't get it up, So in order to get it up, she kills people, and that's the only way that she can uh, get to a climax. And you have the blending of sex and violence, because I know that's what Ty West was trying to do, trying to show the parallels between sex and violence. And you can have a little bit of the stuff where, oh, if you're so focused and preoccupied on your looks and on sex and sex appeal, that's going to be taken away from you when you get older, and you're going to have nothing left, and you're going to be miserable. And I get that. You can have that in there too. And then you can have the kills. And you can be more effective overall. You can have better pacing. Because you can have characters that aren't that strong, but it works all right in a horror anthology format. And then you still bring the goods when it comes to the gore. So, and you also have that concept of people making a porno, and then it turns into a slasher, and then it's just a more satisfying film overall. Instead of a movie that just feels like it's stuck in second gear, or a film that just gives you blue balls for the most part. And it's just one of those things where I just don't get the approach. If you're going to make a slasher film, then you should deliver the goods, or you should give people some kills earlier on in the film. You should give people what they want. Throw out any slasher that you can think of at the top of your head. They don't wait this long to start the killing. They don't wait this long to start showing the blood and guts. If you want to be an atmospheric horror film, then be an atmospheric psychological horror film. Don't try to be a slasher film and try to be a horror drama at the same time. I don't think those two mix very well. And the horror drama stuff also doesn't mix well with the comedy. So it's very hard to have a comedy, which this film definitely is at times, and then also trying to be some kind of drama with psychological horror elements. And the cast, for the most part, also is pretty good. I don't think the cast is bad. I thought Mia Goth, except for one exception, and I'll get to her soon enough. Mia Goth, though, I thought was marvelous. And she played both the film's lead, Maxine Minx, as well as the killer, Pearl, in old age makeup. Which was an interesting choice, but that's another thing that I honestly feel Ty West should have not done. I know why he did it, because he wanted to show the parallels between Mia and Pearl, and show how alike they are, and show what Mia could, be, or what's her name? Maxine. Show what Maxine could be when she gets older. I get it. I understand why he wanted to have that setup for the casting, but it's distracting because the makeup, as good as it is, you can still tell that it's a younger actor in makeup, and that just makes it seem like it's a spin-off of Bad Grandpa, and I don't think that's the right kind of vibe that you want for this film. Maybe they did it because, an older actress wouldn't do nude scenes. Have an actress in makeup then. Why do you have to not cast an older actress to play the role of Pearl? I don't really get the casting decision here. It makes the film distracting, and it's another thing that makes it seem like it's a sketch at times, or a skit. Makes it seem like it's a skit from a sketch comedy. Also, you have Jenna Ortega as Lorraine. This is who I'm talking about, who I wasn't a fan of. I don't like this actress. I thought she was awful in Scream 5, and I thought she was awful here. She has a good scream. That's about it. Everything else is about as convincing or about as strong as your average performance on the Disney Channel or Nickelodeon when it comes to one of their sitcoms. I don't understand why she's this considered to be this next big thing by so many of these filmmakers. I really don't get it at all. I personally feel that she's not ready. She's not ready for prime time, and I everything that I've seen from her so far has left me completely unimpressed, and I just find her to be more annoying and irritating than anything else because I just don't buy her. I don't buy her performances. I don't buy that she's some up and coming talented actress. I just don't see it. Brittany Snow, she played Bobby Lynn. I really liked her. I thought she was fun. She was sexy. She had a lot of charisma. I didn't care for her doing some random song at one point in the film, but I still liked that character, and I still liked that performance. She's one of the few characters that I did like, along with Kid Cudi's character, Jackson Hole. I thought both of them had good chemistry with one another, and I liked their characters. That's why it was a shame to me once they got killed off, because then I was stuck with Mia Goth, who I did like the performance, but I wasn't as into the character because the character is some narcissistic, naive, I'm gonna be a star kind of person who is snorting coke and is all about them. And that's the whole point of the character, and I get it, but it just makes for a character that feels very one note, and for a character that is very hard to root for, or hard to really give a fuck about, to be honest, because she's so self-serving. I think if the character had a little bit more to her that shows that she's someone who's gone on a darker path, but at one point had more promise, or at one point seemed like she was a more wholesome person, then I think that character would play out better, because then you would have some sympathy for her. Then you would want to root for her to get clean, to survive, and make it big or something like that. But she's just so narcissistic and so self-serving that she just becomes obnoxious at times. I'm gonna be a fucking star. It's like, I don't fucking care whether you're a star or not. And Martin Henderson as Wayne Gilroy, I also didn't mind him. He's this porno producer guy who thinks he's a sex symbol. I like to call him a poor man's Matthew McConaughey. He was fine. I didn't mind his performance either as the character. Owen Campbell as RJ Nichols, though, like, that guy was terrible. RJ is this guy who, he's the cameraman, and he's the first guy who dies, and he also has a scene where he cries in the fucking shower like a bitch because his girlfriend, Jenna Ortega, she decides to be a part of the porno, and he shoots her during a porn scene with Jackson Hole, and the next scene is him crying like a bitch in the shower. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get why he's doing that, because he wanted to be the one, and he loves her and whatever, but it just paints the guy as a total fucking pussy. I mean, a total fucking sad sack pussy. And that just makes that character completely just not necessarily useless, but definitely unlikable at that point. I wasn't even really that into the guy before that point anyway, but at least he was somewhat tolerable. And then he's just some simpering, whimpering pussy in the shower. Like, have a fucking backbone, man. Like, yeah, you shot a porn scene with her with this other guy. She said to you that she loves you. And if your relationship is strong enough, you can move past this. I mean, there are probably a bunch of porno directors who are in relationships with porn star girlfriends, and they're not crying in the fucking shower when they're shooting a scene with their woman banging another guy. It's a part of the fucking business. Grow some fucking balls. Stop crying in the fucking shower. So yeah, did not care for that take. And then the performer was there. He reminded me a lot of that guy who had long hair and glasses and had a very similar look from the Evil Dead remake. That's what he reminded me of. He reminded me of that guy. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Now, the rest of the cast, I mean, there's another guy who plays Howard, Stephen Earle. He plays the husband of Pearl, this older guy who I like to call Old Man Reggie Bannister from Phantasm, because he looks like it. He looks like old, decrepit Reggie Bannister. And the performance is all right, but it's not one of those things where he's kind of overcompensating because he's a younger actor and he's trying to be old. I just don't understand why Ty West thought that was a good idea. I get why he had the parallels with Mia Goth playing the young and older version of herself, but I don't get why Stephen Earle is just this guy in makeup who's a younger actor. I don't understand why he did that. Just cast an older man. There are plenty of older male actors out there. And I guess it's one of those things where he just committed to it because I guess he thought it would be too much of a contrast to have Mia Goth in old age makeup alongside an older man who isn't wearing any makeup. But if that's the case, just don't even have people wearing makeup to begin with. And speaking of makeup, that's one thing I will also mention about this film that's a positive. The practical effects. There are some nice bits of practical gore. The simpering, whimpering dude who cries in the shower, he gets stabbed in the neck multiple times, and it's all practical, and there's no CGI. You actually get corn syrup and food coloring for the blood. There's this other, the porno producer guy who dies in the dumbest way. He fucking steps on a giant board with a nail sticking out of it when he has a flashlight that clearly shines a light on it. He's walking in this barn, and then he steps on a board with a giant nail in it, like it's some scene out of Home Alone. And then he gets stabbed through the eyes with a pitchfork. He gets stabbed in the eyes with a pitchfork. Then I'm trying to think of, oh yeah, the other girl, the blonde, she gets killed by an alligator. She gets shoved into the water by the old horny woman, Pearl, who I think they were trying to make this a funny scene, but I just thought it was lame, where she's trying to do the right thing and help this old woman and put a blanket over her to make her warm up because she's out there in the cold. The old woman slaps her in the face. She's understandably upset and calls her a bitch. And then the old horny woman shoves her into the water. The blonde gets eaten by the alligator. And then the old woman's like, bitch. And it's like, I guess it's supposed to be funny, but I didn't find it funny at all. I was just like, no, you're the bitch. Like, what the fuck? She was trying to help you, and you're just like, no, bitch. Now you're alligator food. Then Jackson Hole, Kid Cudi's character, he just gets shot with a shotgun by the old man. It's really not much of a kill. I will say this, Pearl gets a good death. She gets her head run over with a car, and you see the head crush, and there's brains, and there's all kinds of blood and matter and pieces of the skull. The old man, though, he just dies of a heart attack. Jenna Ortega, she gets her hand blown off, and then she gets shot in the face with the shotgun. So it's got some alright gore, but it's not that creative though. Like the first kill is just a guy gets stabbed in the neck. It's bloody, but it's not that creative. The second kill is a guy who gets stabbed in the eyes with a pitchfork, which you've seen done before. And the other kills, like, this guy gets shot with a shotgun. Another girl gets shot with a shotgun. A girl gets eaten by an alligator. You don't see anything. You just see the alligator spin in the water and blood in the water. You don't actually see any limbs getting bit off. You don't see any gore in that capacity. Any extra gore. And you have Pearl gets her head run over. But other than that, like not that creative. But I will give it this. At least it was done practically, and I do appreciate that. Now, it also featured some cinematography by Elliot Rocket, and I thought he did a really nice job. It's a good looking film. There's some good looking shots. Nice looking shots of the lake. Nice looking shots of the house. Really loved the way that the camera panned and the camera moved, and the way that the cinematographer lit a lot of these vintage 70s pieces of equipment or cars or the clothes. The film really did look like a story that took place in the late 70s. Like, it looked very authentic in that regard. It also features some editing by David Kasharoff and Ty West. The editing at times is not that great. Like, there are some times where the editing is really top notch and great and really makes the film pop even more visually and helps the film with some extra bit of tension and suspense. But there are other times where it actually hurts the film. For instance, when the porno producer guy gets a pitchfork in the eye, it's edited in a way where it just completely kills the momentum of the kill. He looks through these eye holes, you see the pitchfork real quick poking his eye, and then you don't see any payoff. And for some reason you see the payoff later. It cuts to a scene that has nothing to do with the kill, and then later it cuts back to the kill. That did not work at all for me. And there were a couple other moments like that where it seemed like the editing was trying to be a little too artistic and trying a little too hard to be different, when I really think it would have benefited a lot more from just being more straightforward. Just have the pitchfork go into the eyes, then have the pitchfork pull out and the eyes pop out. That's what you really want from a shot like that. That's you want the money shot. You just delayed the money shot for reasons that don't really make a lot of sense. But it's fitting for a film that has a lot of things that don't make a lot of sense. A slasher film that doesn't have the first kill until the first 57 fucking minutes. A script that is all about these characters who are making a porno, but it takes itself too seriously at times with conversations about the fact that, oh, you better make love now while you still can, because when you get older, that's not going to happen as much. They're trying to make it some kind of serious, dramatic kind of thing. Scenes with the old woman crying while she's taking her makeup off in the mirror because she got all made up for her man, and her man didn't want to stick his dick in her, so she's like, stuff like that, where you're just like, really? Like, we're really trying to do that? This is not the right kind of film for that. At least not to me. I know there's a lot of critics who praised it for that very reason, but not from me. Also, a lot of the horror is just, she's old and she's horny. This woman is old and she's horny and she wants to bang. And I'm like, that's not fucking scary. It's not scary to me. It's just sad. It's sad and weird, but not scary. I'm sorry, I'm not scared by saggy old tits or wrinkled skin. That's not scary to me. But anyway, it has a running time of 106 minutes, but it feels like it's longer than that because it just takes its sweet ass time to get anywhere. It's like a movie. It's like the movie equivalent of somebody who's giving you a hand job and just taking forever. And you're like, what is going on here? Is there something wrong with me? Or is there something wrong with the person who's giving me the hand job? Why the fuck is this taking so long? And I guess maybe that's the point. Maybe Ty West thought that this is supposed to represent an actual orgasm, where it's like, oh, you're going, you're jerking it, and you're just waiting for the erection to build, and then boom, a splooge of blood and violence. Maybe that's what he's trying to do, but I don't know about you, but I don't think it takes that long to get it going. If it takes that long to get it going, then there's something wrong with you. You need to go to the doctor or some shit if it takes you 57 minutes to finish yourself off. Like, I mean, or finish someone else off, or to work yourself or your partner to a climax. Like, normally it doesn't take that fucking long. Speaking of climax, this score, for some reason, I don't understand why it just sounds like a bunch of people fingering themselves. Oh, 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 oh. Maybe that's the point. It's trying to mesh with the sex and the porno stuff and the other aspects of the plot, but it's just fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's silly. It's not scary. It's not creepy. It's at times it's just fucking annoying. It's irritating. It really was. There's a sequence in the film that showcases a long lingering shot of a jar of mayonnaise, and I think that is the perfect way to sum up this movie. X is like a jar of mayonnaise. It's bland. There's not a lot of flavor to it. There are some good things about mayonnaise, but it's not something that's really that great by itself. And I feel that this definitely needed a lot more ingredients, needed some more seasoning, and the end result is just something that just did not even provide half a chub. It didn't even bring me to a full climax. It's one of those things where I feel that it had a lot of potential. It could have been something that really went big and really completely threw the typical A24 horror film tropes on their head, but that wasn't the case. That was not the case at all for me. More of the same fucking shit. Filmmakers who try to be dual threats, but they're not as talented or as good of writers as they think they are. Characters that for the most part are really unlikable, or the ones that you do like get killed off, and you're stuck with a character that is a complete and total bitch, so there's no suspense in the climax. And just really bad pacing and just piss poor structure overall when it comes to the way of telling a story, the way of keeping an audience engaged, the way of keeping people interested. But that's just me. That's just my take on X. It didn't give it to me, and it definitely did not mark the spot. Anyway, thank you for watching my rant on X, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.